My people, what up, though? We back with another episode of All Black Men Need Therapy. My name is Chief.
And I'm Bell.
My name is Prentice.
And we in studio, and it feels good, and I'm excited. I'm still rolling with the good juju and the good vibes. Fellas, what's happening? P, check in.
Actually, I'm going to check in first.
You want to check in first?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You're not reading the script.
I'm not reading the script.
Yeah. My check-in, man.
My bad.
I'm good, man. It's it's funny because I think about the episodes we be recording and how my check-ins, because I go back and watch the episodes. I know y'all don't go back and watch them, but I go back and watch some of them sometimes. And no, that's not a shot. That's not a shot.
It sound like
a shot.
No, it wasn't a shot. It wasn't a shot. I do it sometimes to just, quite honestly, to see how my mic sounds, pause. So that's sometimes I do it like that. But anyway, I was watching a couple of episodes because we're so far ahead. That's the other thing. The episodes is like from a while ago. I'm like, damn, I sound completely on check-ins. I sound completely different today than I did now, which is actually, now that I think about this, a good lead into the conversation. But there was a period of check-ins where I was what I now understand to be depressed, right, for like a few months.
Oh, and like just in your delivery, demeanor.
The state I was in at that time when we were recording, you know what I'm saying? And now I look back and I watch them, I'm like, oh wow. Like I'm I shouldn't say obviously, but I'm out of it now. But anyway, my point is I'm in a good spot. I feel good. We're back in Marcus Studios. Shout out to Pat Capper, Marcus Sports, Marcus Media. Back making it happen again. But yeah, I'm just blessed, man. I'm blessed. That's how I can sum it up. I'm blessed. I got some work getting done at my house. We had an interior designer come through. I don't even want to talk about it, but everything's gonna look good when it's all said and done. So I'm blessed. I feel good.
No doubt. P, check in. Talk to us.
I'm good, man. I'm feeling enlightened. I'm a lot more aware of my energy. I'm aware of my surroundings, and I like how my perspective on life is right now in comparison to like a few months ago. I think I got a much healthier perspective, and I'm seeing things in a way that I need to view them. You know what I mean? That are helpful for everybody around me, not myself as the priority, even though I am the priority. I feel like my vision and my insight right now is going to be beneficial for my family. So
That's what's up.
Yeah, I'm proud of that.
Good, man.
So in my case, man, all is well. I did get my results back from my admin certification. I came up short on like 2 different parts. So
wow, yeah, we didn't talk about that.
So I just got it last night on the ride.
Oh wow.
On the last night on the ride, so I got to look back at that, and they give you a detailed thing of what you did wrong, and you kind of got to just make edits and do it all again. But what I found out was you can't just you got to make the edits and pay that $150 again to resubmit it each section. So
$300.
Yeah, so another.
That's not terrible.
No, it's not terrible.
Yeah.
And so it ain't gonna kill me, but it was bothersome because I was hoping to just get it out the way.
And how long can they re-review it? Or how long before they review it?
The only time you can submit is within these certain periods. I got to look at when the next submission is, and you got to submit before that date, and you get your results a month and a half later. Again, so it's another extended time. So yeah, but it obviously to be done before next school year, which will still allow me to have all the certifications. But so that was kind of a gut shot for me. But
and what do people normally one and done, or is it they?
So from what I heard, no.
Okay.
So I'm not isolated right here in this situation. It happens to most of people, but either way, I made
at least
sure,
you know.
Right. I mean, I made sure I checked everything on the list, but I guess they like what they like and they want what they want. So that was a little setback. But outside of that, man, everything is on the up and up and moving in a good direction. Kids are happy and healthy. I know I say that damn near every check-in, but
well, I mean that's a blessing.
That's a blessing.
That's
a great thing to repeat.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
exactly.
So, outside of that, man, all is well. I just I don't know if I told you, P, but I just took my mom to
Orlando.
To Orlando, but just seeing Shorty smile and watching her, my mom's type of person, when she cries, when she laughs, she cries. Mm-hmm. So she spent the whole weekend crying, laughing, and she actually spit up her water on 3 different occasions because something funny happened. So it was just a real good time to hang out and just get out of the elements. She got some time to rest, so that was cool, man. But outside of that, everything is really, really dope. Everything's moving in a good direction. So today's topic: depression is a luxury.
we got this from this clip that we'll play, and it's 50 Cent talking about how depression is a luxury.
I think the things you go through make you who you are.
Mhm.
And in my journey, like there's certain things that I'm not really, I don't even let it into my system like that. I think depression is a luxury.
Wow.
Because where I'm from, you can't afford to be depressed. You got to pay the bill, right?
Right.
So you got to go to work. You got to get up. You got to go do what you got to do. You got people right now that's at work that don't feel like being there.
Mm-hmm.
But they got responsibilities, so
Yes,
they go.
sir.
They feel uncomfortable while they're working, while they're doing what they got to do. Like, when these guys get in a slump and they just decide that they're not going to do anything, I'm like, where they do that at?
Right.
Even when you're on the street, you got a pack. You just decide not to come outside?
Yeah.
They're going to beat you. You're going to beat to death. Wait till you come out.
So before we get into the episode, just as from a definition standpoint, depression is a condition of general emotion, dejection, and withdrawal. Sadness greater and more prolonged than warranted by any objective reason. A low state of vital powers of functional activity. So, and just from some stats, approximately 9.5% of the U.S. population, which is almost 16.6 American adult ages 18 and over, will suffer from depression, illness, major depression, bipolar disorder. Each year, women are nearly twice as likely to suffer from major depression than men. However, men and women are equally likely to develop bipolar disorder. So,
Know that.
yeah, so it's alarming statistics, you know what I'm saying? And I think that episode on Big Boy's station with Fifth, he was saying depression is a luxury because there's a population of people that he feels don't have the luxury to be depressed, right? They have to still keep going forward because they don't have any other choice. So that's today's topic, right? Is depression a luxury?
So hearing the initially, like when I just said today's topic, depression is a luxury, I'm pretty sure we got a couple side eyes and heads turning because like when I heard it, I'm like low key, I don't want to say offended, but like it's bothersome to me. Like what the fuck you mean it's a luxury? Like you know what I'm saying? But in that context, I mean it does make sense. But even for those who have to keep going, ain't nothing luxurious about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like having to push through depression is terrible, bro. And obviously you guys know it comes from very, very, very personal reasonings for me. But in the middle of it, I think for those of us, I didn't know then, but for those of us who are aware we're going through it, I mean, so real quick, do you think most people in the middle of a depression can identify that they're going through that depression?
I just got out of one, and I could tell you firsthand I didn't know I was in one until I got out.
Right. So in my case, in my case, with something being so traumatic and so sudden, you know what I'm saying? Even with that, I still didn't identify it as depression in the moment. And for those who, I mean, if you're watching the podcast, you know. For those who don't, in 2009, my younger brother was murdered, and it was by far the most difficult situation I ever had to go through. And 2.5 years later, I'm coming out on top of it, and I'm looking back at it thinking that it was just normal. It's supposed to happen. This is what happened when your brother gets murdered. You're supposed to be sad. You're supposed to feel this way. But it was actually a 2.5 year depression that I was in, and it took the birth of my daughter and creating my play to kind of get me out of the funk. I wrote it out, and just knowing that I have something else to live for was kind of like what catapulted me out of the depression. But so when you label it as a luxury, it's kind of like, dude, there wasn't nothing luxurious about that 2.5 years, bro. Like nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like from all, I mean, in all aspects, from work to relationship to family to just all of it, everything just felt like it was just like here. There was no up. You know what I'm saying?
I don't, and again, Fifth smart, right? So he says things to provoke conversation. And here's my take, right? Like, I don't believe depression is a luxury, period. I do believe it's a luxury to be able to address it medically, right? And here's why I say that. In the black community, it's been proven that depression lasts longer. right?
Really?
It's been proven, right? I got it from addiction, traumatic stress disorder. No, sorry. Where'd I get it from? I got it from Medical News Today.
Is that like a socioeconomic thing where we just don't like?
So here, I'll read it. It says, most studies find that when black people do develop depression, the condition lasts longer. They may also be more likely to have co-occurring diagnoses, such as addiction, post-traumatic stress disorder, and generalized anxiety disorder. Racism and stigma within the medical or mental health profession may intensify the effects of depression. Doctors and other care providers provide lower rates of treatment for black people with depression than their white peers, right? So that as a natural construct puts us behind the 8 ball. So that's where my opinion, that's where Fifth was coming from with that comment, where depression is a luxury. Mm-hmm. Here's why I say that, right? Chief, if you came from a well-educated, well-off family, right, that had the resources to identify these things and to treat these things in real time, you would have gotten that treated in real time, as opposed to you having to basically thug it out.
Right. So what I'm hearing though too, like, it's crazy because I'm firmly aware that I have PTSD regarding that situation, but I attribute it to the circumstances and not necessarily the depression that followed the circumstances.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because you don't want to succumb to the stigma of being because in my opinion, right, just me, I look at when I'm depressed, reason why I don't identify it or can't identify it is because I look at it as a weakness. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, I'm like, nah, you're stronger than that, right? So I push through and not address the real issue.
So although our depressions with the circumstances are different,
Yeah.
pushing through, obviously you do what you got to do on a day-to-day. You're going to work, you're raising children, you're taking care of family. Do you feel, did you go home, or when all that was done, did you sit in that depression then? Because I did the same thing. I pushed through and thought I was okay and thought everything was fine, but you know what I'm saying, until like the light bulb went off, it was like, oh, like
I didn't
different. You know what I'm saying?
For me, it was just a natural state. So it wasn't like when I stopped doing something, I feel depressed. Where I realized after the fact is how I talk to myself. Right?
In the depression, you mean?
Yeah,
or
like
after?
Yeah. Like Napoleon Hill says, there's 3 main things that hold people back: poverty, superstition, and education. He was like, people often focus on what they don't have instead of focusing on what they want or where they're going. Right? So when you focus on what you don't have, those 3 things, you can stay in that same place. So and again, this is just me knowing this from reading and doing some self-work, right? So when I was starting to come out of it, I'm like, bro, that's me. I'm over here focusing on everything that was done wrong to me or not given to me or not allowed for me to participate in, as opposed to what I need to do to get right. Right? So that brought me to a place, like a dark place, where I was just like, you couldn't bring certain individuals' names up around me based on what I felt how they treated me. You see what I'm saying? So, and what I realized is it had more to, like, my circumstances had more to do with me than them, because I was focusing on the wrong things, right? If somebody's not gonna help you, cool, figure the shit out. Whereas I just sat, I guess I just sat in that space of not having.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying, and I agree with the sentiment, because once I started to do more reading on how to cope with grief and get out of that, I started to make my climb out of it. But I don't feel like, I just feel like the timeline behind it, because what would you spend would you say in your, like, the timeline in your phase of depression? Like, how long?
I mean, honestly, bro, it's probably like leading up to my surgery. So I would say probably October to February.
Okay, so a couple months.
Yeah.
A couple months, yeah. So
November.
I pushed Pete, this shit like legitimately 2.5 years. I can't remember, like, I almost can identify the moment where, like, it was literally like, it's like opening your eyes and, like, the lights are on now. Like, it was literally like walking out of, like, waking up to the light instead of, like, and coming out of the darkness for me.
Yeah.
and it's bugged out, but it took 2.5 years. Like, does that, like, I don't know if that's no. I guess I don't know if normal is the word to put.
No,
to,
no.
like,
I mean, the depression has no bounds.
that's
You
what
know
I mean.
saying?
Like, but so when you think like, fuck out here, you was depressed for 2.5 years, bro. Like, you couldn't get it
Right.
together in 2.5 years. You know what I'm saying? That's a long time, fam.
Yeah, but yet from that regard, I don't feel like it's. Again, it's all a matter of interpretation, right? You didn't stop doing what you were doing, right? You may not have done it to the quality or level that you or capacity that you would normally do it, because you had people that counted on you. You know what I'm saying? But I think, and again, I don't know, but I think maybe what Fifth may be saying too is like, to treat your depression, like I
Is a
said,
luxury.
mentally is a luxury, right? To admit yourself somewhere is a luxury. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have the means. But go ahead, Prentice. I want to hear from you.
I feel like Fifth is smart enough to know exactly what he says when he says
Oh,
it,
100%.
right? So I think he meant that, and I think it's interesting when you hear people speak about depression from a space of current success. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like what I was listening to when I listened to him talk about depression as a luxury, I felt like he was talking about that from a space of being successful, because he brought up a lot how people who are depressed, how it's a luxury, how people have to keep going. We all have to keep going.
Right.
The quality of how we keep going is what changes. You know what I mean? It slows down when you're depressed, but if you're alive, time keeps going. So we all are going in some sense of form. I think the problem is sometimes when you speak from a space of success and you start talking about how people got these responsibilities and this and that, we're all always going through with that. But I think sometimes we normalize the depression, right? We use the fact that we have to keep going to justify not staying still to treat something that's going to make you better. So I took it as somebody who was speaking from the space of success, not necessarily treating anything, and somebody who found an effective way to normalize whatever depression they've had to justify why they're not necessarily treating it. Because saying that it's a luxury and people have to keep going is a cop-out to me. It sounds like an excuse. to
Yeah,
me.
I don't know that he's saying people have to keep going. I think what he said was people do keep going, right? People do keep going when they don't have the luxury. But I'll only challenge this in one way, Prentice. Success is relative, right?
Right.
So people may deem me successful. People may deem you successful. People definitely deem him successful, right? So, but we've all experienced depression, right? So it's like, for you to say or for me to say, like, that's coming from a place of success, but people at every level have depression, right? You know that, right? So, but I don't know that it has to do. The only thing I'll say is this: socioeconomic status doesn't determine whether or not you're gonna go through depression. It could determine how you handle it.
Right.
That's what I'll say, right?
Agree.
Absolutely.
Not how you endure it, but how you handle it, right? Like, if Fifth is in tune enough with himself and goes into a state of depression, he has the resources to get the best treatment and or help to do his best to come out of it, right? So I think when he says it's a luxury, that's a luxury he's now afforded. He could do that. The working mom on Jamaica Ave, she can't do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she doesn't have
She has
that
to keep
luxury.
going, right.
That's why I say from like being able to deal with it from a medical standpoint, that's the luxury piece.
Yeah, I get that. I just feel like at its core, it has to be treated. Like, you have to treat your depression, and I don't think there is, in hindsight, I don't think there is a very valid excuse to not treat your depression.
You can't.
If you don't know,
if you don't know, you don't know.
you don't know,
Like,
you're
you can't
depressed.
treat it. Pete, like, I would. So here's the thing. Like,
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
I
I
just
get
attribute
that.
it to the traumatic experience. But I would
Right.
like. So my brother's in the military. I coach basketball. I had to, no bullshit, I had to walk out of the gym every game when they played the national anthem, because the national anthem made me cry. And at no point did I think, oh, you're depressed.
Because we're normalizing. We're just going through something in the moment that we have to figure out how to get past or to get through it. You know what I mean? Like, we can't. And so in that sense, I get it. You got to keep going. You can't you know, like in a moment where it hits you, you're just trying to overcome whatever feelings these are right here so you can keep going about your day. You know what I'm saying?
So how do we know when every day feels the same?
That's the trick.
I remember that from your poem.
What's that?
Every day feels the same.
Yeah, every day feels the same, bro.
I don't know, because I think I parts of me feel like I'm still in a depressive state. You know what I mean? But parts of me feel like I'm coming out, because I feel like you said, that light switch, right? Mm-hmm. So the light switch comes on, but when the light switch comes on and you start to reflect, some of that shit I'm reflecting on still is fucking with me right now. So I'm wondering, can I possibly still be depressed?
But in the middle of that, we talked about successes. In the middle of that, you booking a gig over here, you flying across the country, you performing for this person. I'm in London,
right.
I'm in London performing, but
my question is, can you appreciate those things during a depressive state?
It's a lot more difficult depending on the conversation. Like you said, the conversations you're having with yourself.
Yeah.
The conversations you're having with yourself can matter, because Lord knows I got things I'm going through right now that I'm tackling and dealing with personally. But I need to understand that, like we was just saying off camera, I understand you I think you were using the restroom. I was telling Chief, like, I understand that right now my life is about sowing seeds, right? And it's not about the reward and reaping the benefit of it right now. You know, I understand that there's certain work that I have to put in to get certain results. So right now I'm able to recognize, despite what I'm going through personally in life and that I'm dealing with, the blessings, right? And recognizing those blessings are helping me and reminding me that I'm on some type of right path, despite the changes internally I may not have fixed already. You know what I'm saying? But I think there are signs and you know, breadcrumbs that can be given to you in life if you're aware enough to see them.
I didn't pick up on none, and I'm just
again,
because maybe it's just the traumatic behind it, but like I didn't pick up on any of that shit. Like that was like right around the time I went to Finland and performing. I'm like, poetry took me across the fucking overseas,
right? But you can't.
And
at
no point was it like, yeah. Like, yeah.
Well, here's a take, right? Maybe, just maybe, you have to go through it, right? Maybe it's not like, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, maybe it's not like, okay, boom, you're depressed. Let's solve it. Maybe it's like, no, you got to go through this for a period, right? So you can come out stronger on the other side. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. But, like, and there's people that live in a state of depression. So let me just be very clear.
Right.
There's people who live in a state of depression.
And when I talk about my 2.5 years, like there are people who literally.
Yeah, that's
living in it.
That's their norm. You know what I'm saying? So, and those individuals, they learn to deal with it. However they deal with it. Right? I have a friend. Huh?
Do they know?
I mean, a lot of them are on medication.
Subjective.
So yeah, right?
There is that.
A lot of them are on medication.
There is that.
You know, because. I mean, where do you think the statistics come from, right? Like, it's this, the statistics come, there's a large part of that of who's being medicated, right? Like, that's how they get a lot of these numbers. I have a friend, they were telling me, like, they naturally have anxiety, naturally. But it's spurts, right? Like, it doesn't, they were like, they can feel it happening when they find themselves having trouble making a decision, right? Like, where should I go eat? I think maybe I'll go there. You know, where should I stay when I go on this work trip? Well, and that's the trigger for them to understand, like, okay, my anxiety's starting to flare up. You know what I'm saying? Like, my anxiety's starting to happen. And then they have different coping mechanisms to help them get through it. You know what I'm saying? But again, I'm not a depression expert, but I feel that everybody will experience it.
No, for sure. So the note I just took was, you talked about, like, people having the medication and going through it. And I know depression is like a hard feat for people to get through. But just the way I'm wired, and I believe we're pretty much wired the same in terms of, like, if someone told you in the middle of your depression, you're depressed, you're like, oh, I got to get this right. It's time to go. Let me get my book. Let me get my therapist. Let me do whatever I got to do to get me out of here.
I wouldn't have had that response.
I wouldn't have either.
I'd be like, man, fuck out of here. Ain't nobody depressed. That would have been my response.
I would have probably became even more upset.
Defensive.
No, not defensive. Like,
like more depressed.
Yeah. Like, shit, I am depressed. Damn, I'm depressed. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think it would affect me. Like, I got to deal with the reality of identifying that I'm depressed.
So it would have been similar to like, fuck, I'm not depressed. Oh, am I really depressed? All right, well then we got to figure out. I would have been like, yo, we got to figure out how to get out this because I'm not about to sit here and do this shit. I've been through that before.
I would have had that
Everybody
conversation, but it
right
wouldn't have
there.
been in real time.
Yeah.
Like my first response, man, nobody depressed. Because again, how I conceptualize depression is like weakness for me. Doesn't mean I'm not going to be depressed. I'm going to be depressed, but it's like, for me, I can't see myself being depressed regardless if I am or I'm not. That's why, for me, I can't identify it until it's over.
Does it matter who it comes from? Because I think we do a good job of
What
listening
comes
listening to one another. So if I go, P, man, like you ain't been the same lately. Like I feel like you might be depressed, bro. And then you go, oh shit, maybe I am. If I said the same thing to you, you're gonna be like, fuck out of here, I'm not depressed. You might be like, well, this nigga P, he don't never say no shit like that to me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't think you're right. I wouldn't have had. You can't tell me I'm depressed. You got to ask me.
okay, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like-
So to my point,
Yeah.
if the masses observe you in a space of depression and go, Bell, like, you sure everything's okay? Like, it feels like whatever. At that point, are you not like just instantly triggered to be like, let me get a book, let me get a therapist, let me do some digs, let me
No,
do some
I'm
digging and find
telling
out
you,
what's going
in
on.
real time, I am defending myself. Ain't nobody depressed. When I leave that environment, I'll reflect. But in front of you, no, I'm not about to show weakness. Again, that's how I view it, bro. I view it as weakness. And again, I know it's a clinical diagnosis. It's not a weakness. But in my mind, for me, that's how I view it. And I'm not about to be weak in front of you.
So here's the thing, like, it's crazy because I share a similar mentality in that, but I've also, the combination of the both of you, I share the mentality about anybody depressed, but I also have no problem standing firm in that and acknowledging that I'm depressed and verbalizing that to whomever and being like, yeah, I'm in this space right now, but I'm getting out of it.
But
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
and I 1,000,000%. Like I should also say for the record, to my knowledge, I've only been in a state of depression 3 times in my life. I know for a fact I've been depressed more than that, but in terms of like a long period, like it's only been 3 times in my life, and ironically, they were 10 years apart, each of them.
we talked about that
Yeah.
recently.
So, so it doesn't. I don't go into a state of depression often. So my natural tendency is to be defensive. Now, if you or Prentice or one of y'all said it, I would have to take it into consideration. Like I don't believe I would be defensive. If my mom said it, I don't think I would be defensive, right? Because she battles depression, right? So she's medicated, right? So she understands what it looks like, and she knows me better than most, right? So if she sees something that off with me, I got to take that into consideration. My boss said, nobody depressed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's funny you mention that, like, 'cause so you can identify like the 3 specific moments outside of the situation with my brother. I can't really, I mean, I'm certain it's happened, but I can't be like, yeah, I was depressed during this phase or during that phase. I can't, like, I honest to God can't.
You know what just came up for me that I just now thought about? When justice got taken from me, when the courts let him move with his mom, when she had no job, no nothing, I was fully employed, and they let him to move to Florida, I had to have been depressed. Had to. Like my
I don't see
my
how you
first
couldn't
trip,
be.
Yeah, I don't tell you couldn't be.
I'm just thinking about this right now in this moment about that. I had to be depressed. I don't even know how long because he was gone from me. I was doing that back and forth shit for, 10 and a half, 11 years.
So
And
was
I
it-
hated it every single day of my life. So I wondered, I may have normalized it. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to have
So
normalized it.
do you think that like that light came on when you picked him up and had him for that week or two, and then it kind of dimmered down, and then you kind of played that game for a while? Because
or did the light come on when you got him full time again?
well, I know that happened for sure.
Yeah, well, shit, I'm just thinking about it just now. I have not considered the idea of me in depression and my son living across country for all them years and me having visitation and shit. I never considered depression as a part of the component. I always knew that I always told myself every day I'm going to get my son, and I knew it sucked every day.
Yo.
And I knew I hated it every day.
That speaks to the luxury.
Explain, give me more.
You didn't know it was an option
What?
to be depressed.
It wasn't an option.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's all I'm saying. Like
It wasn't
that
an
speaks to
option, but at the
that's-
same time, it had to exist.
I'm sure
and
it
I had to
did.
be living
I'm
in
sh-
it.
I'm
but
sure it did.
mentally, it wasn't an option.
I'm sure it
So
was.
I think it's probably possible. And we're talking about black men. I mean, and we haven't even addressed that yet in talking about depression. There are so many different components that pop up for us in our daily lives that can easily lead to us being depressed to no fault of our own.
Elliot Connie had a psychotherapist that we referenced last episode. He tours the country, the world, and speaks and everything like that. And he said one of his white colleagues, woman, that is like stellar in their field, like highly respected. She said to him, she's like, because he says that black men suffer trauma every single day.
Yeah.
And she's like, you don't believe that, do you? And he's like, I'm tired of having to explain this. He's like, he gave her examples. If I lock you in a room with a venomous snake and that snake doesn't bite you for 11 days, is the time that you got bit the only time you experienced trauma?
Damn, that's a great analogy.
Right? It's like,
That's
no,
a
you
great
experienced
analogy.
trauma the day you got locked in that fucking room.
Yep.
Because you're trying to avoid this venomous snake.
Uh-huh.
That's trauma, right? And he said that that's what black men deal with on a daily basis. So to your point, it's a natural tendency for us to, this is going back to the study, to normalize it, which is why they say black people go through it longer. Because our circumstances out the gate are so fucked up.
They are.
You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
like,
And
like
my
it's,
bad.
it's like what you got to, like what you're comparing it to. You know what I'm saying?
And I think a lot of us as black men, we're groomed to prepare for fucking war.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We're
Right.
groomed for that shit.
Right.
So
Right.
at a young age, I think seeds are being planted in our mind that we're gonna hit a space of depression at some point. We're taught, and then naturally when you get out there into the world, you got to put on the extra coat of armor just because of how you were born, right?
But think about how you mentioned us being groomed, and I don't know why, but I just got hella emotional thinking about like justice being across the country. That shit like really like, I don't know, it just
Yeah, that shit fucking sucked.
no, but like I
You can't imagine being that far from your
oh
kids.
my god, like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Nigga, it's
yo,
torture every fucking day.
Fam, I
every
couldn't even-
fucking day. And everything that happens in his development, you're happy about and depressed as fuck because you're not there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't that shit like I don't know why it just hit me in the day.
you know what I mean? And it can make you complacent. And now that I think about it, I was getting unemployment on purpose, trying to hustle unemployment in poetry because I couldn't work when he was in town, and I'd have him for 4 to 6 weeks at a time, and I just refused to work. I refused to work. I fucking refused to work when I had him. So I had to figure out a way to pay the bills, so try to do this poetry and keep this unemployment check as long as I can, because there's no way in the world I'm about
You
to
gonna
have a
miss a minute.
full-time job when I only have my son 4 to 6 weeks at a fucking time, or 2 to 5 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So when I think about it, yeah, I think when I finally got him, the weight definitely got lifted, and I feel like every day now is rehabilitation. You know what I'm saying? Like I just chaperoned this 8th grade dance last Friday.
Saw that. Shout out
That's
to you,
dope.
bro.
That shit was fun in the motherfucker.
Shout out to you,
Bro, I was up there dancing. I was in the corner, you know, I wasn't embarrassing him or nothing like that. I was chilling, but I was so happy because I was like, this is a shit I thought about all the time that I'm finally get to do. So I feel like right now I'm still working my way out of the fatherhood. Damn, this is crazy talking about this shit because I've never considered this till now. I feel like I'm still working my way out of the fatherhood scope of my depression, because I'm just now starting to have these moments that I've been envisioning. You know, like football. You remember you went to the game? His first year of football for Justice and Tip, bro, the coaches hated me. The coaches hated me. You paid us to coach your son. Let us coach your son. You know, I know you want him to
This
do.
nigga P running touchdowns with him up and down the sideline.
I've never done it before. This is my first time in life, and my son is 13 years old, and he's playing football. And I played football when I was little. This is a monument. Every fucking Sunday is the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? I got my dad jersey on with his number and Tahir's number on. They don't understand that. They just see a parent who's overly involved and doesn't know how to, you know, respect
Overly
boundaries.
involved parents.
You know what I mean? And I had to tell them, like, yo, I got you. I hear you, but I've never done this before, bro. Like, he just got with me last year, and the first thing we did was sign up for football, and he's in football, so I'm going to just let you know now. I'm going to try to stay off the field, you know.
Respect your boundaries.
But that's the best you're going to get from me. I'm going to be yelling. I'm going to be screaming. I'm going to be hyping them, and ain't nobody taking that shit away from me.
So it's crazy. I was talking to E about this. We may need to get E on him. My man, one of my other really, really good friends, he sent me a video. I take his daughter and my daughter to batting lessons, and his daughter hit a home run the other day, and he's recording the whole thing, and I barely heard him. Like, you ain't hype enough for me, bro. Like,
right.
Like,
Quiet.
like you ain't doing this enough.
I can
for
hear
me,
the
bro.
audience.
But you talked about being groomed into to overcome that, and what came to my mind was like, sometimes it's subconscious grooming. Like, it's not even a direct teaching. It's just the environment we're placed in society says this is how we move, and we don't get depressed.
Yeah.
Like, no one's ever said that to us when we were younger. You know what I'm saying? That we don't get depressed in this house. Or that's not an option for us. It's just how we've seen the people move, and like how it was ingrained in us that kind of like, you got to overcome this. Like, ain't no time to pout. Like,
yeah, but that's not the answer either.
No. I'm just saying. But we
it's
talk
not.
about how it's groomed, but I'm like, it's primarily subconscious grooming. Like, we don't.
Wow.
It is in our music. Like, we get paid and we get put on platforms for our depression and our ability to articulate our depression.
We, in particular.
Yeah, that's what
think
I'm
about
saying.
It happens even
We've
more so
grown
with
up on
poets.
depression.
It happens
through our
even more
music.
so with us because the heavy shit is what gets the crowds in tune.
And we say the words. We know all the words. We've grown up on depression, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Niggas dying, sick.
But that's the thing. It's that the study talks about being passed down, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like there's studies that depression can be like hereditary, right? Like, if your mom has it, your dad has it, you're more than likely to have it, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. Then you got what ends up happening is we trauma bond.
Yep.
Right?
I honestly think that's how me and this nigga got started.
Yeah,
Probably.
I think so.
We trauma bond because your situation fucked up. Oh shit, my situation fucked up too. Let's talk about how fucked up it
Click.
is. Yeah.
Best
It's
friends.
like,
Isn't that how it happened, Pete?
Yeah.
it's like, you in the projects, well, I'm in the projects too. What floor you on? All right, but let's. So what happens is, you don't know or see any other way.
Yeah.
Right. So, because I tell myself this a lot. Perfect example, right? I have a my former I'll just say he's a mentor of mine and a colleague, and he had a situation where he had to move his kids through multiple schools, right, and multiple moves and stuff like that, and he was so worried about like what this is gonna do to his kids, right? Now, mind you, right, just perspective,
Right.
like.
Right.
He moved from an affluent neighborhood to a secondary home that he has while waiting for the next move to shake out. During that time, there was multiple school changes. When they finally got to the school they wanted, he moved into the nicest house on the block, brand new, nicest house on the block. And he's worried about all these things with his kids in the school and everything. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, bro, I went to 5 elementary schools before 3rd grade. Right? I lived with my grandparents, lived with my aunt. Like, I lived all these places. I'm like, these kids are living in a fucking lap of luxury. Right? Like, they gonna be all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't fail as a parent. Like, you have the means. Right? You have the means. So you're showing them something different because you have the means, right? It's like, if you didn't have a choice, your kids would have been like me, moving around from house to house, to school. I said, but don't beat yourself up, man, right? Like, you have the means, you're doing what you feel is right, but this isn't a situation where it's like you're gonna fuck your kids up, right? I don't believe that because to bring my point full circle, what I would always do, when shit got rough, I would reference a part of my life that was worse.
To justify you getting through that current moment.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So what I'm saying is those kids, them school movings, I'm not saying that's not a big deal, but that's the only thing they have to worry about.
Is that what he was worried about?
Yeah.
That was on this. I think one thing that happens, that makes me think of when I left my marriage. I was depressed in that marriage. And I was married to a fucking social worker / therapist who was telling me I wasn't depressed. So that's one thing. Then I get out of it, and when I had to leave, I left everything, put all the stuff in the trunk that I could, and then I had to go stay at somebody else's house with my kids. So then that put me in a different state of depression, because I went from being depressed into this marriage, now choosing to jump and be on my own. Now I'm beating it's that self-talk. I'm beating myself up for now being in someone else's home, but I just left. You know what I mean? Like, I just left. Somebody was gonna have to help me in order for me to actually be able to leave, because I wasn't in a position to just provide like that. So I had to stay with my kids in somebody else's home. You know what I mean? And then that brought up a different set of issues, feeling down, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, my kids, granted, are going to the same school still. They're doing the same activities. Nothing in their life has changed, but now this ain't my roof, and we got to stay here right now.
Yo.
Now I got to deal with this type of depression. So I feel like sometimes depression can follow you.
That's another thing too, Prentice, that you may have to keep into consideration when dealing with or speaking with your kids. This is probably the most they've had to deal with instability. You know what I'm saying? So that affects them too. Our last episode we was talking about like justice and how these things you do impact him. Mm-hmm. He's also dealing with, he had shit. Like, he was in Florida, right? He's now here.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Like, and I mean, granted, Sarai's been around for a while, but he's only been back for a little bit of time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's a lot of other things, a lot of factors.
Yeah.
Right, that you have to take consideration too. We all do.
Yeah.
Like, we all do. Like, even my daughter, like, shit that she deals with that I didn't have to deal with. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it's just different.
And you don't think about it, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, one of the most beneficial things we've done is Justice has gone to the same school. We still, you know, he was walking to school. We moving back. He's able to go to school for the first time with people that he sees outside of school. He's never
close in proximity.
In Florida, he was traveling an hour and a half and doing all these different things. But it's important that, you know, we keep him grounded and give him a foundation that he hasn't had for the very first time in his life. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that matters.
Yeah. So it just brought up another point. So when you were talking about, like, I didn't like, I'm considering your trauma and Justice being across the country, and never put myself in his shoes, and it just brought me back to a moment with my daughter. So when her mom and I separated, I'm like, okay, cool. Let me get my space situated so she has a space at my house. Mm-hmm. Mom, let me get her situation space so she has a space at her house. So in my head, I'm going, yo, everything is good. My baby girl is fine. She has a home here. She has a home there. All is well. So Pete, we go into the bookstore one day to go get a book. I'm like, babe, we'll get a book. I'm like, go get a book. And she drifts off into the kids section, whatever, and she comes back with this book. It's called Blended. It's a little black girl on the cover with a little ponytail, looks just like my daughter. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't thinking nothing of it. So she brings the book, and on the back of the book, it says, shout out to Sharon Draper, the author. It says, I reach out and touch my father's hand. I look at my pale fingers next to his. Daddy, what, sweetie? Do you think people will think I'm black or white when they see my daughter's black and Puerto Rican? Am I black or am I white? She goes, his lips turn into the slightest of smiles. I can't tell if it's a sad one, though. He looks at me with his brightest brown, almost black eyes with thick lashes just like mine. Yes, is his reply. Yes. But on the inside of the book, it says, you're so exotic. You look so unusual. But what are you really? 11-year-old Isabella, whose father is black and mother is white, is used to those kind of comments, but it doesn't mean she likes them. And now that her parents are divorced and getting along worse than ever, which shit was toxic for a while, Isabella feels like a push-me-pull-me toy being split between two homes. Being split between mom and dad is more than just switching houses, switching nicknames, switching backpacks. It's switching identities. If you're only seen as half of this and half of that, then how can you ever feel whole? And I never took into consideration the way my daughter was feeling with the whole shift, because, you know what I'm saying, she does have different nicknames. We did do different book bags and all that shit. It never crossed my mind, but then it was just interesting to me to how she gravitated towards this book, and we read it together, and we talked about, you know, different homes and so on and so forth. But I think to Belle's point, in the middle of our shit, we need to really dig deep into what our kids could be going through, because you never even thought about the trauma justice could have from going over there and being over
Never,
here, and
bro.
what's underlying,
Never.
you know what I'm saying? So that's
You're so concerned with providing and protecting and taking care of them that you feel like as long as you're getting your shit together, your kids will be okay.
right, and it's
Yeah.
like
You know what
he
I'm
eats
saying?
every day. He got a roof. He got good
as long
clothes.
as I
You
bring
know what
in
I'm
this
saying?
money,
Gets
as
his
long as we
haircut.
do this, the kids is gonna be fine. But they're a whole ass human being,
Yeah. Yeah.
a whole ass
Well,
other
feelings,
person.
as
emotions,
human beings
yeah,
with
that are all
legit
valid.
emotions that have
That-
been bottled up, and he finally, disclosed to his father. PPS. I think. How do you feel about it? I think having him watch that last episode might open his eyes to how, because you said a lot of impactful things in regards to relationship with him.
I definitely let him
You
hear
know
it.
what I'm
I
saying?
know he
think-
sneaks
I
and
think-
listens
I
to
think
him.
it could be beneficial
Yeah.
for him to see that.
Yeah, I definitely will. I think that'll be good. That's a good idea. I
But-
will.
Like the last episode, that speaks to like our feelings not being considered as a child, right?
True.
Just the necessities were considered as a child,
Mhm.
right? And that's essentially what you're doing. You're referencing the necessities that he has, so he should be good, especially since you're in a better place, right? Like to your other point, he may not have ever known you weren't in a good place,
Right.
right? So now you're like, well, shit, you got this, you got that. But he's like, well, Dad always had that, right? You were going through your shit. And this is
Right.
all of us have to deal with this. Like,
Yep.
we project, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, you should be good because I'm good, basically.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's not fair.
Right.
As Brenda said, as simple as it sounds, he is a whole human being.
He's a whole
you
ass
know what I'm
person,
saying?
man.
A whole ass person who has all the things that we have.
A whole ass person, and depending on how you raise, like, my mother, is bipolar. So, I dealt with a lot of challenges with that. I have a line in one of my new poems which like, I laid low until she refilled either her bottle or her patience. And writing that line made me think about how I normalized depression as a child. I knew when my mom, when she couldn't afford her Prozac, I knew when it was low and she was splitting the pills because it was all in her behavior. It was all in her behavior. So I knew when to fall back because she just had an attitude and was hella mean. And I think what happened is sometimes our parents were depressed, and because they were depressed, that made them feel like we really had no reason to be depressed. So that concept kind of can pass down to you.
Oh yeah.
You
Good
get
point.
what I'm saying?
Good
Like,
point. Yeah.
you ain't got to worry about bills. You ain't got to worry about their fucking kids
No,
who do
what I have to-
worry
what
about
I have to worry about,
things.
my mom doesn't talk to me.
Yo.
She's mean to me.
Listen,
But, you know what I'm
you
saying?
know what I mean? But it's when you're depressed, man, it's so easy to get inside yourself even more. Despite having to move on and keep going, it's so easy to be in your own little bubble to where you're not considering how your depression is depressing other people or
Well, yo.
affecting people you're responsible for.
Peep the shit that you just said, though. How crazy is that? As a child, you had to be responsible for your mother emotionally.
Wow, and that's why I had to detach.
But
because
this
still
is
to this day,
this is not just you. I don't remember the study, but it talks about black boys being the emotional crutch for their moms specifically, right? Like how, and my wife and I, we talk about it. Like, there's things that we had to manage emotionally as a child that weren't taught to us. But to your point, when the pills are getting low,
Yeah.
right? So now what do? You alter your behavior, right, to make sure she's good emotionally.
you want to know, bro? 2 weeks ago, I'm at the gym. I get a call from a doctor. The doctor says, "Can I speak to Prentice Powell? I'm calling on behalf of your mom." I'm like, this must be an error. Me and moms don't even speak anymore. Your mom wrote a very disturbing email to us, suicidal, saying she needs help. This 2 weeks ago. I'm at the gym, and I'm like, fuck. I got to leave the gym and go to my mama's house. She's not answering the phone, so they want me to do a wellness check before they call the cops. March 7th, 1989, I came home from school and found my grandmother dead in her home. Had to break the window. She was going through rigor mortis, all this shit. Driving over there, all I could think about was, driving to the same city, all I could think about is like, this better not be a reoccurrence of that moment.
And it was March.
This better not be, and it's March. This better not be a reoccurrence of that moment. You know what I'm saying? But here I am going to the aid of somebody who I don't speak to anymore and that I feel abandoned me. But here I am going still to show emotional support. So I knocked on her door. I banged on the door. And she said, "Who is it?" And I was like, "Thank God." And I said, "Mom, you need to get some help." She said, "PJ?" Through the door. I'm like, fuck. So she's going to the window, and I couldn't get myself to look at my mom. I just couldn't see her because it was just too much for me. But I said through the window in the door, I said, "Mom, I love you. You need to get some help. You need to take care of yourself. I love you." And I started walking down the stairs because she went to the door to open the door. And I just couldn't see my mom. And I walked down them stairs 2 weeks ago, crying. And I said, "I love you." And I couldn't even look at her. I said, "I love you. Get some help." And I got in the car and I drove with my head down out of the parking lot because I didn't want to look up and her be at the front door. And 3 hours later, I get a text message that says, "I love you too." And for a minute, I remember I talked to you about it. I felt like here I was being the emotional support for my mom once again. You know what I'm saying? Still having these feelings about not being supported myself. But it's an interesting thing when you can identify depression in other people, know what that's like, and despite what it does to you or what they've done to you, you don't want them to feel that way. So if I can tell her, I know that I love you did everything. I know that I love you did everything. Yeah. Because she responded like a couple of hours later. And I'm so grateful that despite what we've gone through, I still have the emotional capability to show love when it's absolutely needed. You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes in other people's depression, well, in not other people, but people in general, sometimes that love for other people gets lost. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we just go into ourselves and go into our own zone, man. So I say that all just to touch on what you said about feeling like you got to be there for your parents emotionally more than they're there for you emotionally.
100%. Because they don't know how. That's what I said.
And that's what I had to tell myself on the drive.
That was going to be my next point. Like being there emotionally for someone doesn't always mean that they're able to receive that.
Yo.
You know what I'm saying? And it makes it extra tough for us. In my case, because like we talked about it. You guys have told me like it's almost to a fault. Like I'm just caring and pouring and pouring and pouring, and people just, may not be willing to receive it. And it's like,
and it fucks you up. I think it fucks you up when you don't get it back. You know what I'm saying? I think it really fucks with you when you don't get it back. But yeah, man, this depression thing it's a fucking monster.
Yeah, man, there's a lot to unpack on what you said though about that situation with your mom.
Yeah.
Because my question would be, if that I love you did so much to help her, obviously she's still with us, so to get her out of that state, at least in that moment where the doctors were worried, what could it do if she felt that weekly for her? From you?
What could it do if she felt that weekly from me?
From you.
I'm sure it could help.
So what's preventing you from doing that?
I have no desire to.
Even though you know it can help?
Even though I know it can help. Going back to our last episode, when I was talking about me thinking about my father passes, feeling like I'd be absolutely okay with it. I'm okay with it. And through this situation,
so you willing to take whatever this is to the grave?
Yeah. For my well-being.
So here's my, from what I know of you, I 100% believe you in what you're saying right now, but I also 1,000% know it's not going to go as you think it is.
You may be right.
With your okay right now, and God forbid, with you being okay with that, it is going to. It's just.
I mean,
it's inevitable.
You got a glimpse, thinking on that drive of what was about to happen, and you were a wreck, and you didn't even have confirmation.
See, this is the thing. I was on the phone with Sarai. I wasn't a wreck though. I didn't want it to be the situation, so I had to get it out and verbally kind of say it to somebody, but I wasn't a wreck. It's just not what I wanted. You get what I'm saying? I wasn't crying and panicking.
You were
I was
crying
driving.
when you left.
Huh?
And you wouldn't
Yeah.
look
He was
at her.
about to cry 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, I did cry when I left, man.
I don't know if you saw it. His eyes was bloodshot. Right.
I did cry when I left, but I don't want to get off track with the depression. But
I mean, we are still on track.
Right. Very much so.
We are still on track, bro.
yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, depression is a bitch. It's a bitch.
Yeah,
But-
I think it's I think in this particular case, it's depression and ego.
and ego,
Possibly,
yeah.
And
I
ego.
think I said that to you in a recent conversation. We talked about
And
that.
ego. Like, since we talking about Fifth, he spoke about Amari Hardwick when he interviewed or auditioned, for Power.
Shout out to my man O.
Yep. And it was an interview, and Fifth was like, it might have been on, I don't know if it was on Pivot, but I don't know. Amari Hardwick was telling the story, and basically he showed, like, Fifth handpicked him, and he showed up for the joint, and he did well, but Fifth wanted him to really go in, and he didn't. So he called him, and he's like, look, man, they still want you to come back, man, but, they're now considering other options. Like, so I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, I need you to bring it, you know what I'm saying? And then Amari Hardwick was like, well, if they feel somebody's better for the job, then so be it. And Fifth was like, don't let your ego talk you out of this job. He's like, don't let your ego talk you out of this job. So we all know what happened, right? He came back, killed it, and now it's still one of the greatest shows of our generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least on a minimum on premium cable. So that's the thing, man. I think as black men, we're very prideful to a fault. To a fault, man.
For
Like,
sure. I'm guilty as shit of that.
like, yeah, we all are. Like, I would say if I had to give the pecking order, it'd be you, and me, right? Like in terms of like how high our pride is, and that shit. Think about it, man. Like, we lose opportunities because of pride. We lose relationships because of pride, man. We lose out on money because of pride. You know what I'm saying?
Defense mechanism half the time.
Yeah, because it's
It
like,
definitely to be a defense mechanism. for
yeah,
sure.
it goes back to the disrespect episode we did a while ago. We feel
Yeah.
disrespected.
Yep.
And I'm gonna show you I'm not the one to be disrespected.
Mm-hmm. And however I can control that disrespect,
Right.
I'm gonna, whatever sliver that is, please believe I'm gonna own that. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
show
sign
you,
me up for that.
Yeah. Sign me up.
Right.
Sign me up for that.
That's what it is. And,
sign
and
me
it's
up for
fucked
that.
up. But that, again,
and watch how I
that's-
kill this shit in
Right.
silence.
Yeah.
Right.
That-
Right.
that's-
And myself
Right.
at the same time.
right. Right. Oh my goodness.
But that's, again, man, that's also learned behavior, bro. Like, that's
It
also
is.
environment driven, right? Like, family driven, like society driven. Like, it's just, again, I always go back to the one of my good friends at work, man. He asked me so genuinely. He was like, yo, why are black dudes always ready to fight when they get disrespected? He's like, why are they always so fast and ready to fight? And I'm like, and it pissed me off at first, but then again, same thing. You have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's true. Like, we're willing to die for our pride
Yeah, over dumb shit.
over some dumb shit, man. Like, willing to die for our pride, willing to take gripes and griefs to the grave over pride, like over shit that probably won't matter.
And
You know what I mean?
What's crazy about it is that I think even in our mature ages and wisdom, when you answered it in the car, like, I'm not afraid of shit getting out of hand.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the shit is gonna come to us regardless, and it has in life.
Yeah, but we are we're intelligent enough to know how to avoid and evade these situations.
Right.
But in some cases, it's like, nah, he about to get this.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you.
Right.
I can show you better than I can tell you.
Right. Precisely. But it's not, and it's not even a second of a thought about it. It's like, okay,
Right.
this
And
is
it's-
what,
I'll
this is
say
what
for
it is
me,
right now.
It's almost like prideful for me. Like, I'm like, man, I told my boss that. He sat me down, tried to get to know me. I said, first thing you need to know about me, man, is I don't care about it getting out of hand. Straight up. That's what I said to him. I said, first thing, I said, I don't ever care about it getting out of hand. Like, it can go whatever direction it need to go.
There's a little bit of liberation in that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But when
There's a little bit of liberation in
they
that.
hear that though, so I could just imagine when you hear that, it's like I tear all this shit up.
I'll
in
fuck
here.
everything
You know what
up
I'm saying?
in
Like
here.
that's
Shit,
like
I'll
that's what
toss
you hear. Like I tear all this shit up in
And
here.
I'm sure he was like, "But where the fuck is that coming from, bro? We at breakfast, like literally."
You
banging
have a
over
good job.
Yeah, but I just need you to know, cause yo, it's crazy, man. Because I always think about that Willie D line, man, from My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me, the Ghetto Boys. Shout out to the Ghetto Boys.
Shout out.
When he was again, the Mind Playing Tricks, when he's like, you know, what did he say? I know the line, but I'm trying to get the lead up, but basically, he was like, the line I live by is, if it's going down, let's get it over with.
It's going down.
Like,
Let's get it over with.
That's how I look. That's how I look at it. And I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I'm just telling you that's how I am.
Well, okay. Is it the right way to do it?
I don't believe so. I believe that's a prideful statement. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
Like, if it's going down, let's get over it. Wait, why does it have to go down?
Right.
Because you disrespecting me. You ain't listening to what the fuck
Right.
I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. But why does it have to go
down?
down?
You're going to know not to play with me.
Right. Why can't it be another way? But that's why I'm looking at it. Like, I don't. So that coupled with, I don't care about it getting out of hand, and if it's going down, let's get it over with. You know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, like, why are you so angry? You know what I mean?
Because we're programmed to fight.
But that's
Fight
what
back.
Is it
Back.
so fight in just the general sense though? It ain't even got to be like
Fight back. I think fight back. I want to say
Fight
back.
back.
I don't even want to say fight.
But see, no, you say fight back, but I would argue that sometimes we fighting back to an unknowing opponent.
Yeah.
Right.
Because of the feeling.
Yeah.
The feeling is familiar, right? All the feeling is
The
always
emotion, the
same. Yeah.
pride, the ego.
Yeah.
I'm about to fucking play with me.
That's what
Man,
I'm
you're
saying.
not.
Oh my
like,
God.
like that again. I know I always go back to this example, but old boy in the elevator, he wasn't an opponent. Like he didn't want no smoke, man. Like, but to you, it was like, oh, it's going down.
I'm gonna
so
run the story
upset.
back for the people
So
who don't, for
upset.
the people who don't know. So fellas, Bella and I getting on the elevator at Prentice's wedding. We're going down to the first floor or whatever, and Bella and I just chopping it up, and the elevator opens, a dude on the elevator, not a small dude, and I'm just like, good morning. And he don't say nothing.
You were so tired.
So I'm like, good morning. And then he's like, oh, good morning. And then Belle's like, what if that man don't want to say good morning to you? And I'm like, I was just saying good morning to him. That's all. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, but that second good morning was like, motherfucker,
Yeah.
you don't hear me talking?
And we in close quarters. So I'm saying we in fucking
right.
elevator.
Nowhere he could
you know,
go.
ain't nowhere that man
Can't
can
nothing about
go.
to get out of here.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't care about it getting out of hand on this elevator. You gonna say good morning to me? You
I don't give a fuck about him and my homies.
It
I'll throw
was
you
a
through this
respect
glass.
thing, bro. Like, maybe again because it's me and
Pride,
how I
bro.
respond. If any of these gentlemen said good morning to me, I'd have been like good morning and just kept it pushing. But he didn't say nothing, and I thought maybe he didn't hear me because I talk low sometimes.
You do.
You know what I'm saying? So
You
I
do.
thought he didn't hear me, but I guess the tone in which I said the second time was a little aggressive, and it also disclaimed, I don't care nobody got a hand, you better fucking speak to me.
Yeah, and yo, I'm telling you, man, like little shit, bro, little shit. Like I sent y'all the clip of me banging out 60 push-ups the other day, right, to the group chat. And Mac was like, ain't no fucking lockout, right?
Yeah, so there's technically 32.
Yeah, so that's a strong 38. So I got pissed, right? I got pissed when he said that.
It was big man.
But I didn't. Well, my response was about to be, motherfucker, you're not supposed to lock out outside of max sets, right? If you bench max and you got to lock out. Anything else as a rep, like they tell you don't lock out, especially leg press, all that shit. Don't lock out. So that's what I was gonna say something to the effect of, show me a trainer that tells you to lock out, right? When you have weight on and shit like that. But I didn't. I took the high road. I just gave the Jadakiss line, right? No lockouts, the game don't stop. You know what I'm saying? So that was me not letting my pride get in the way.
Hey,
Because I responded, so that made me feel better.
the circumstances was different. So you did the circumstances different because it's one of the homies. So you did ask me, like, if it was a black dude in the elevator, would I have responded the same way? And I think I would have.
I don't think so.
I think I would have.
I don't think so.
'Cause he'd have probably
I don't think you wouldn't have responded because he. Here's what I think. I don't think you wouldn't have had the same feeling. I think you would have gave him more grace. That's what I think. I think you would have gave him more grace.
Yeah.
so.
I think he would have got the benefit of the doubt, and maybe that second good morning wouldn't have been as forceful because he would have
Definitely
gotten
got a second good morning. It
He
might
would
not
have.
have-
I know he would have. I don't think you would have changed the words. I think you would
Tone.
have changed the tone and the feeling would have changed.
Maybe this is me trying to fight the fact, but I don't feel like it was that aggressive. I
No,
really
it was aggressive, bro. Like, there's no two ways about it. Like, because you know, it was a dad tone. Like you said, it was your dad tone. It was your dad tone.
Well, so question for you guys. So 50 says in that interview, you know, that a lot of people can't afford to be depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to y'all, do you feel that you can afford to be depressed? And if so, what's the cost?
That's a great question.
It is a great question. So so to answer your question, I don't know if I can answer the question, but what I do know is depression is expensive. Now, however form you want to look at it, monetarily, physically, emotionally, depression is expensive.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I'm saying? It is taxing in all phases.
I can't afford it because I can't afford to be depressed.
Elaborate.
So I can't afford to be depressed to a point where it's debilitating. For me, in my life and my circumstance, I can't. Like, I'm not at a place, like, I have to work to still make money, right? I'm not at a place where I can sit back and be okay. You know, and not to say that someone who can sit back, you're not okay, but financially, right? Like, financially, you know, I got to work. So if I'm depressed too long and it hinders my ability to earn, literally expensive, everything changes in my life.
Have you experienced that? Have you experienced your depression getting to a point, or is that something you tell yourself in order to not get there?
Yeah, like the 3 times, remember how you said you don't know if you can reference 3 times? The reason why I can speak to those 3 times so vividly, because every time, whatever the situation was that got me depressed, I ended up exponentially better. Exponentially. First time, I got my spot taken by a freshman, right? I come out of that shit and end up being top 30 in the country.
Busting their ass.
Right? Second time, I got put on a performance plan at work. Got my shit together, got a promotion, a new job, then became a director, right? And this is the 3rd time. So I remember it vividly because I remember the success thereafter, right? Where, you know, the quote I say a lot of times is, you know, everybody wants the glory, but not everybody wants the story. You know what I'm saying? Like, they want to be Prentice Powell on stage and you on national TV.
Right. They don't want
but would they be willing to deal and sacrifice with all the shit you had to sacrifice to get there? You know what I'm saying? So I'll say I can't afford it. Not that it's something that won't happen to me, but I can't afford to allow it to control me.
You know what's crazy, P, is when he was talking about, you know, everybody wants to be Prentice Powell, don't want the story of Prentice Powell. What's crazy is sometimes, like, from what I know, you and I typically write about our experiences, our lives.
Yeah.
But people still don't feel like, they think it's like we're just creative people and just like we're able to just write stories.
Put words together.
They don't put it. They don't think it's like attributing. It's coming from a genuine and natural place.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of I statements in the poetry or whatever, but it doesn't feel like it's a personal story.
You know what you gotta do too? You gotta
because you guys are so fucking creative.
Right.
That's what it is.
And that's what it. And what that does is it provides a smoke screen for your depression.
Yes. Wow. Yes.
It provides a smoke screen. So what happens is, in this art form, doing Good Father on Arsenio Hall changed my life. That is the most depressing work I have ever written in my whole entire life.
I've seen you do it a million times, and I remember maybe a couple different occasions. Like, you get to the end, and it's like you're crying. Like,
bro, it's real, right? But what happens is that applause and whatever positive emotion that comes back from the outside world is what tells you maybe you're not depressed, maybe you're okay. Right. So
the people like my
let
work.
me articulate another point of pain right now. Let me get some applause. Okay, I can do this.
Cup a little bit.
So next thing you know, I got a whole ass list of painful poems that people are paying me for now to fly across country. People are putting me on TV for now. People are writing articles and blogs talking about how talented and wonderful I am. So, This is the angle right here.
That is the craziest shit.
This is the angle right here. If I write about my pain, I can get it off my chest. People applaud. I can do it again. People applaud. I'm making some money now.
And I'm recognizing it.
And I'm recognizing exactly. So that's where it's like, oh, I'm better. No, we're not supposed to live in a cycle of pain.
Right.
And you get what I'm saying?
It's literally just reopening wounds every time we perform.
Every single time, bud. Every time. I still do Good Father, and I be mad than a motherfucker now. I feel better. I feel like it's helping people, but now I be.
You don't think it's a little bit different now because he's there, so it doesn't carry that same emotion?
No, it does.
Does it?
Now it carries
No, it has. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Nah, it carries a type of resentment in it. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay because I'm not living it no more.
No, yeah, but
it's harder when you live in it.
It's a rhetorical question because I got emotional when you were talking about it being across. I know it works with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, I think this. I don't want to be abrupt about it, but I feel like I'm happy we kind of transitioned into a lighter space. We're able to get a couple good jokes at the end of an episode about depression. You know what I'm saying? So I think it'd be a good place to kind of like
shut it down,
take a deep breath. Like,
yeah.
So we done. we done with that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like, have you guys ever been to the African American Smithsonian in DC?
Nah.
The museum? It's super dope. Did you go with me?
I don't think I'm
I
not.
heard there's a lot of struggle story in there.
Maybe I'm thinking one in Brooklyn. There's one in Brooklyn too, right?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
I think
The DC one is like the big,
Right,
huge one. Anyway, the first floor is like all like the slave passage, all of that stuff, and it's heavy. So I say, like at the end, they tell you there's like a beautiful waterfall when you finish on the first floor, because every floor is a time period, and I never made it past the first floor, but they tell you like when you go through, sit at the waterfall.
Do you start at slavery?
You can start wherever you want,
but history in there, does it start?
The way it works is it goes from the bottom to the top.
And the bottom
so
is slavery?
1800s, yeah, and you go up, and it gets like even on the bottom it gets to Emmett Till, you know what I'm saying? But they tell you, my point is they tell you to sit down at the waterfall, just decompress basically, right? And taking, I feel like this is one of those episodes where it's like we gotta like come down, you know what I'm saying? Like ending abruptly is fine. I'm just saying.
No, that's
even when we turn the cameras off, it's like it's still gonna.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Great parallel because my homie, shout out to D Mills. He just went to Africa and went to like the door of no return, the door where like all the slaves went and got on the boat and then come back.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And I was like, yo, how was that? It was a cool experience. He's like, dude, this shit was so.
What country was that in?
It's in Africa. It's in
Africa's a continent.
I know it's in
In Cape Town, South Africa.
I want to say it's in Cape Town. Or
I don't know.
What's the one furthest south? South Africa. It's Cape Town, South Africa. Yeah, Cape Town, South Africa. Yep.
You know what? One thing I will say, just to add, our history is fucking depressing. Our fucking and so the reason why I asked you if it started at slavery is because all of our history here starts at this slavery shit as if we did not exist prior to that. And I feel like it would help our depression on a certain level as far as our culture and history here in America if we went back further than fucking slavery. Because if you think about it, I haven't been too pressed about going. I'm gonna go to the Smithsonian, but it sounds like a bunch of struggle ass stories.
No, but that's how it starts. But then it goes up to the top, and you start seeing about all the shit, the great shit we did, and it's built like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it tells a story.
I get it. I just wish slavery wasn't always at the beginning, because that's just naturally depressive to me. Like if
you want to go back to when we were kings.
Everything. Like if hearing about my history, starting at getting snatched up and taken from my family, beat, how in the Atlantic Ocean, did you guys know the sharks naturally started creating different swimming patterns based off of following these ships during the Middle Passage? Like sharks migrated to certain different areas in the country or in the world due directly to the Atlantic slave trade and the bodies that were being dumped, which is crazy. So, I just wish sometimes that, in order to help our depression overall, we were given stories to where slavery occurred at some point in our history, not the beginning. That's a whole nother story that we could talk about at different time.
That's fair. But that goes back to being resilient.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And even the museum.
It's in Ghana. Sorry,
I swear to God, I was gonna say Ghana. Even the reason why I knew that because I'm watching Snowfall, and
I still gotta watch that shit.
Africans actually would enslave their own people. They would sell their people to slavery, and that's on the story. But anyway, Oh, the way it's a story of resilience. The way the museum is set up is a story of resilience. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it's heavy, it's deep, no matter what. Which is why we need to stop. Shut it down.
Final thought.
I want y'all listening to take a moment to be honest with yourself, to assess how you're feeling, to assess if you have anything going on in your body, in your energy, in your system that you need to address, to know that there is absolutely nothing wrong with being depressed. I think the wrong, so to speak, would only be in allowing yourself to stay that way. And I know it gets confusing and it gets frustrating and it's easy to justify or normalize depression. But I want you to understand that it does not have to be a part of your life, and it can be repaired and it can be fixed. But you have to find a way to identify it.
We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
I say listen to your people. Pay attention to your own patterns. When shit starts to feel uncomfortable, maybe just do a little bit more dissecting. Don't just brush it off as, a part of the day or whatever. See if there's some triggers behind it. And if, again, like P said, if you can identify it, the sooner you do something about it, the better chances you are of getting yourself back to a healthy state.
Hell yeah.
My final thought is it's a luxury to be able to talk about depression as we deal with it and our friends deal with it and people we know deal with it.
That
Because
I agree with.
For sure.
there's people who don't have that opportunity any longer.
This is a luxury.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some people who've succumbed to their depression, right, and are no longer here. So I want to make that clear. Like,
damn, it's a luxury to talk about
it's a
depression.
luxury to talk about depression.
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. So that's my final thought. It's a luxury to talk about depression.
That's what's up. Well, I appreciate y'all boys again, man. It's good ones.
Yeah.
We rolling, baby. All right, man. You can find us on all social media outlets at All Black Men Need Therapy. Hit us up at Gmail at allblackmenneedtherapy@gmail.com. We now have a voice line. Hit us up on the voice line. Leave us some comments, concerns, some questions, something you want us to talk about. We might just play it on the air with us one time. You get to hear your voice on the podcast or whatever.
We
What's
will
the number?
play it.
What's the number?
The
What's
number is
Chief?
860-410-6160.
Say it again.
860-410-6160. Hit us up. And per usual, y'all, do us all a favor and hug a black man today
If you don't hug a black man after this one about depression, something
Word.
is wrong with you. Do it.
and tomorrow.
You heard me. Do it.
We out, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.